My favorite part of their story of how they met was the fact that they met by killing each other and then went on to kill each other many times afterwards.
It's just like, oh honey, you tell it. You tell it so much better than I do.
Alright, you're back for another film review video with us. It's Sam.
Steph.
And we're the Movie Budz. So for this week's film review, we wanted to take a look at a recent Netflix film called The Old Guard, released on July 10th.
This is a action-adventure movie. It follows 4 immortal mercenaries who pick up a job from a CIA operative, which turns out to be a setup to expose them. So they go on a quest for revenge and they wind up discovering a new immortal along the way.
So having just watched this film, I can honestly say straight up, it was a lot of fun.
Oh,
if that's the main thing you want to know, the hype is being real.
The fun factor was present.
Before having seen this film, I didn't know much about it, so I did look up a little information. Found out it was written by one of my favorite comic book writers, Mr. Greg Rucka, who was a co-writer on some of my original favorite comic book series. Which I won't get too heavily into, but if you look up his history, it's long and prolific, and he's very talented, and I've always loved Greg.
He's one of the greats.
Yeah, so this is something that as soon as I realized that it was by him, I was just on board. I want to get to it as soon as possible, and that's why we're here.
Greg Rucka did. He rucked the house down.
What? What are you going for?
He rucked my world.
That would have been better. I would have got that.
He rucked my world.
Just quickly, there will probably be some spoilers along the way.
Yeah.
So if you're concerned about that, watch the movie first and then come back.
Highly recommend.
Tell us about the story, Steph.
So I was really into it because it almost immediately gave me a early 2000s Blade, Underworld meets Highlander kind of vibe. It felt like the kind of movie that all those movies were trying to be, that more sleek, sophisticated, more accessible to a wider audience sort of thing. I've never read these comics, but it was so easy for me to get right into the story. There was no, you needed to read the comics to get this one. Anytime you get the original creators of a property behind film adaptation, television adaptation, whatever, just get the guy who made the thing. Get the original person.
And you know what? Get a guy like Greg Rucka who has integrity and actually has stipulations in his contract for what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Which he did, and we will get into that later. But for me, the storyline, I actually really enjoyed. I didn't expect all of the outcomes, a few of them for sure, but I didn't think it was too predictable, even though I've been reading comic books and watching comic book movies for a real long time.
I could show you the collection that's over there.
Yeah, we should actually probably change up the file.
Yeah, you've been reading the same comic books for what, the last like 2 months, man?
Yeah.
Come on.
The story itself didn't really create anything that's crazily new. What it really did was refine a storyline process that's already been around for a while. They just did it better.
Yeah, that's all you could really say.
Yeah.
It's just more powerful.
They just made the right decisions.
You have the technology.
You know, the centuries-old characters feel old. The characters who are totally immortal and not that old feel like it too. I liked the fact that all of the characters, very unsurprisingly, are from totally different places around the world.
A couple of guys who fought in the Crusades on opposing sides until they fell in love and became a couple, and they're so cute.
My favorite part of their story of how they met was the fact that they met by killing each other and then went on to kill each other many times afterwards.
It's just like, oh honey, you tell it. You tell it so much better than I do.
They were fantastically written. I love the fact that they didn't try to make it a special thing.
It was just there.
Didn't make them any kind of stereotype. They're just 2 men who happen to love each other, and beyond that, it was really well handled. And that one moment that Joey has talking about his love for Nikki when they're captured, to me that was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
What is it, your boyfriend?
You're a child, an infant. Your mocking is thus infantile. He's not my boyfriend. This man is more to me than you can dream.
And that was the stipulated part, wasn't it?
That was the stipulated part. That was the part where Greg Rucka said, you can't make this movie without this scene.
They've got to have a gay as hell speech about how much they love each other, and they got to kiss on screen in front of a bunch of dudes. We're gonna get real uncomfortable.
They got real uncomfortable and they used that uncomfortability against them. I love that.
Then you got the more somber side of it with the character Booker, who's a French guy who fought with Napoleon. He comes back and his son died of cancer. So they kind of showed all angles of it.
And that's the thing that I really enjoyed about this film is that they showed you the very human implications of immortality. One of the earliest members, Quinn, with her, they show you one of the things you might not think about for an immortal, which is being trapped in a metal container and thrown into an ocean.
And drowning repeatedly.
That would mess a person up.
It went heavy in the appropriate parts, which is one of the things that I felt that other movies like Underworld and stuff didn't totally do. They would talk about the suffering of immortality.
They talk about how dark and edgy they were and how much pain and suffering they'd been through, but they never really expressly showed you or helped you understand.
Well, they showed you in just a really cheap way, like, oh, someone I love died once.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, go deeper. Try the suffering of meeting your son right when he's on his deathbed and him finding out that you're immortal and him being convinced that you're just not giving him the secret of immortality because you're selfish and you don't love him.
Just try harder.
All of the acting performances in this I thought were really great. Honestly, I couldn't really single out anyone that I thought, they didn't hold up their end of the acting bug, and they're pretty fucking solid. Charlize and Chiwetel I'm familiar with from previous things. I've always enjoyed both actors. Chiwetel is in one of my favorite movies of all time, Serenity, which is the follow-on of the Firefly series, and he was fantastic in that. Yes, I know you haven't seen it, and you fucking need to. What the shit, dude? Come on, okay? Get your stuff together.
Fuck off.
Right.
I'll get to it when I'm damn ready. Action, I think, is what really sold it.
Well, the action sequences were both well handled and they had context, so they mattered.
Yeah, they were able to make them so extraordinary thanks to the premise, which is exactly what you should do when you've got characters who are supposedly centuries old and have been fighting for all this time and
together.
are super trained in this one core group of 4 people. Then they're gonna be good, and not just good, like stupid good. It was like a dance routine, but with bullets.
It's one of those times in an action movie where you can look at the fight choreography and excuse them for being a little too smooth, a little too perfect, like they choreographed it, because of course it looks that way, they're centuries old.
I'm not 100% sure on this. I'd have to wait and see if they do a VFX artist react video. During the fight scenes, at just key specific moments, they would speed up certain strikes and hits.
Just a little bit.
Just a touch to make the characters look just a little bit faster than humanly possible. So it gives them this supernatural quality, even though they are totally human. It's just practice.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
Absolutely. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Just do it!
Very much.
Yeah. And that's something that I definitely believe in. So for me, seeing someone have several hundred years to practice whatever their craft is and then be really good at it, it's like, well, yeah, that's how getting good works.
Oh, also, Kiki Layne as Niall Freeman.
Niall.
Yeah, Niall, not Niles. Normally, the rookie character in a movie who is,
Kind of annoying.
yeah, they're always just there.
They're there to be the young, stupid one so that the audience can be like, yeah.
I do that.
But she was a genuinely compelling character. They actually bothered to give her real fucking feelings.
And I feel like she was actually important to the story.
When she's introduced, she dies. That's how she discovers she's an immortal.
The way that her fellow soldiers treated her after she recovered was very interesting, because they're basically looking at her like, you should be dead, why are you alive? And they're pissed about it.
It's actually almost exactly like that scene in Highlander.
Yeah.
When he comes back for the first time and his village exiles him for it because they think he's a witch or some shit. Kind of, I guess, ties into like one of the central messages of the movie, that it's like humanity just keeps doing the same shit.
And that was kind of clearly outlined by the Andy character near the start, where she's clearly just over it. Like, nothing we do makes it different.
Andy's whole thing of being the tired, weary mentor who doesn't believe in people no more. they're just too old for this shit.
Yeah.
It actually makes sense with her.
And especially if you don't even really get to see the fruits of your labor, because they've been going around pulling all these missions to save people for centuries, and they don't really follow up with what happened to those people afterwards.
No.
It's only when the Chiwetel Ejiofor character shows them how much impact that they've had that she kind of actually realizes how good they have been for the world.
Yeah. And then they execute what I think is probably one of the best setups for a sequel that I've ever seen. His character becomes the guy who covers their tracks.
Yeah.
He becomes the guy in the chair. But this movie stood so well on its own that it didn't feel like any of those forced superhero movies that are just deliberately a starting point and that's it.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it was standing up on the legs of someone else's
Yeah.
work. It's definitely a positive strike for those people who want more original content instead of more remakes and reboots.
Sure.
I'm a little bit halfway between because I like both. I'm really happy that we got to see it and that we got to share it with you.
Super keen on it.
Super happy. Is there anything else you want to say about this movie?
Just go watch it.
Yeah. I feel like that's really the case. If you haven't seen it and you've just been watching this review with us for the shits and gigs, then I appreciate you, but you do need to see this film.
But not before leaving a like and a comment and a subscribe down below, please.
So as always, guys, it's been Sam
Stuff.
with the Movie Budz.
Catch you next time.